Okay, so straight on to episode 2 of the X-Files. And this one has the titular title, the kind of funny one of Deep Throat. It gets a snigger off just about everybody as you say it. But it's obviously, when you see the episode, it's a reference to probably the Watergate scandal and the Deep Throat of that. The kind of person that gives you information, not the other kind.
Moving on.
Moving on quickly. This episode opens up fairly quickly with a raid on a house. You don't know what's happening. You know it's kind of military police. It's plastered all over their uniforms. They break into this house. The wife is outside, nervous, and they find the person inside, the lieutenant, huddled up in a ball, covered in sort of red marks all over his body, whimpering. And there goes the start of the episode. So what did you make of the start of this one?
Again, like the first episode, it was quite intriguing. It feels to me right off the bat that the directorial style of this episode is a lot different. It feels like it's been opened up a bit more. The camera's always moving, and I find that throughout this entire episode, to be honest. The director on this, I think, was it somebody called David Frankel or something like that. I honestly can't remember. I could be completely making that up, but I like his direction of this episode. It's TV, and it feels like a movie. The way it's shot, there's a lot of moving cameras. And I just like it, and you get that sense right from the beginning, right in this opening scene, the way the camera follows this SWAT team into the house. There's a lot of movement going on, a lot of kind of action,
and there's a lot of people there as well. I mean, it's not like a typical TV show where there'll be one or two people. It looks grandiose in scale. There is a lot of the military police there going into this place. They're armed, they've got loads of vehicles and that. It doesn't look like a small budgeted show.
Yeah, it feels like they've used their resources quite well. They fill the screen, really.
And once they've set up that what's going on scene that they have at the beginning of the episode, we go straight into the theme tune, the first appearance of the notorious theme tune in the credit sequence, which I thought was actually pretty good. I hadn't, like I said, haven't seen it in a long while. It was quite interesting, lots of weird images in amongst it, and that haunting tune that just, you instantly know after the first beat what's going to come next.
Yeah, Mark Snow's music really does become a signature of this show, and that theme tune, definitely. You only need to hear the first few opening bars of it, and you know exactly where you are. It's a tune that really fits the show. It matches the style of the show. There's plenty of shows that I've seen where the opening song or the opening theme doesn't quite match the show. And the most obvious example of that for me was Star Trek Enterprise, in which we got this Russell Watson kind of power ballad, and it just seems so out of place. And every time I heard that song on the series, it never sit right with me. It's not a bad song. It's just not a Star Trek song. It's not. It shouldn't be on the beginning of any Star Trek series. But there's been plenty of themes and songs at the beginning of the series that I didn't think matched, but this matches perfectly. It is definitely X-Files.
And to show how much it sort of moved into the social conscience, it was a huge hit as well. I mean, it was in the charts for months. And how many other theme tunes can you say had as much success as that? I mean, it's a theme tune. It was to a TV show, and it was selling copies by the buttload.
Yeah. I was one of the guys who bought a copy.
Yeah, I think I did as well. It'll be long gone now, though.
Yeah.
So the opening scene is in the bar with Mulder and Scully, where he's just kind of laying out the next case that they're going to take on.
Yeah.
Which is about this Air Force pilot that they've seen in the opening scene, and it gives you a little bit more information about why they're kind of going there.
Yeah, so basically Mulder is laying out this case of how Budapest was taken by the military. He was taken in after he had a psychotic break, and Scully doesn't quite understand why this warrants investigation. Now, Mulder says that the wife reported her husband has been kidnapped by the military, and the military won't explain exactly what happened, why her husband had had a psychotic break and what was actually wrong with him. But for Scully, that's not really a satisfying answer coming from Mulder, because she expects a paranormal angle. She's thinking there's got to be more to it than that, and all we get from Mulder is that the case has a particularly paranormal bouquet about it, a particular kind of smell about it. So he clearly knows more than he's letting on, and I also think that he's maybe downplaying just how insulted he is by Scully's comment about it having a paranormal angle, because the way she says it, the way she delivers the line, is almost like the many other people in the FBI who refer to Mulder as Spooky Mulder. Now, obviously, their relationship is still quite new, quite fresh. They're still getting to know each other. So there's a certain, I guess, level of sarcasm, a level of taking the mick out of Mulder from Scully there. She's kind of laughs. She says the line with a bit of a half smile, like he's a little bit, bit of a weirdo.
But it could be a little bit defensive or a preemptive attack on her behalf as well, because she knows she's not getting the full information. And Mulder obviously isn't giving her the full information, so it shows you that he doesn't fully trust this person as yet. They still haven't built this bond that's probably going to appear as the series goes on.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely.
At the moment, they're still kind of dancing around each other.
Yeah.
And straight from there, Mulder goes to the bathroom and meets Deep Throat. There we go. That's what I was waiting for.
Played by Jerry Hardin, who is a bit of a fan favourite. I as an X-Files fan, the big fan here, I like Deep Throat as a character. I like Jerry Hardin in the role, but I was never quite as warm on him as many other big X-Files fans. But that's not to say I dislike him. I do like him here. But yeah, he basically tells Mulder to leave the case alone, and it sounds like he's also trying to tell Mulder that he will give him information as and when it suits, but that in this case he's best leaving it alone. But obviously anyone who is familiar with their political history, I guess, they would be aware of what the title of the episode is referring to. And that's another thing that the X-Files always did, is that it credited its audience with intelligence. It never laid everything out in the open. There are a lot of titles for the episodes that run through the series where you actually have to do a little bit of groundwork to find out what they're about, to find out where their origins lie, and this episode is certainly no different. It's a prime example.
And from there we move into Scully researching the case that they're going to go after, to see if there is anything paranormal about this case.
So just after the scene with Deep Throat, we get Scully doing a little bit of her own investigating, and this is where she finds out that actually this place that they're going to, this town, is a bit of a hotbed for supposed UFO activity. It's also the home of a military base that may be linked to a particular military project called the Aurora Project, which is a secretive kind of military spy plane, or so it's believed, thereby setting up right from the bat the idea that there could be two different possibilities at play here. Is it a UFO or is it a government spy plane?
Yeah, and it's a fairly short scene, but it does two things very well. It dumps a whole load of exposition on you in the form of the newspapers, and it also lets you know how diligent and she just does her homework, Scully.
Yeah.
How she's not resting on her laurels. She knows that there's something that she's missing, and she's actively searching out what that is.
Yeah, she doesn't like going into any situation blind, and certainly later in the series she may go into a situation like this just on the say-so of Mulder. Because of that trust, they gain a deep trust with each other, but they don't have that here. So like you say, she is going to do her due diligence. She isn't just going to go on the word of this agent that she's been partnered with.
That just leads into the next scene where she's phoning Mulder to talk to him. She's obviously discovered something. She wants to discuss that to him, and Mulder realises that his phone's being tapped. He looks out the window, there's a van sitting watching him, and that's when you start to realise that, maybe this guy's a little bit dangerous, or so the government see him that way. They're obviously paying attention to him for some reason or other, so he could be onto something. It strengthens his resolve as well, because as the character, and working for the FBI, knowing that if people are watching him, they're watching him for a reason. Is he getting close to something? Has he stumbled on something as well? It's like most of the scenes in this episode and in the other episode that I've saw have a duality to them. There's something on the surface, but there's more below it as well.
Yeah, it also means you can't trust anyone. So anyone that comes into their kind of line of sight, so to speak, they could be a government plant. They could they could go either way. And I think after this, we do get to see Mulder and Scully going around to the house of Colonel Budapest, and they speak to his wife, who so far her husband hasn't been returned yet, so he's still technically kidnapped. But she takes them over to another pilot's house. Now, this is a guy who kind of went through a similar experience to Budapest, and now basically looks like a bit of a mental case, a bit of a basket case. He's kind of plucking out his own hair to make some little fly fishing bait, tackle, whatever you call it.
A lure?
Yeah, and basically the bizarre thing with this is this man's wife's reaction. It's almost like she's learned to deal with her husband in this way. She's accepted, I guess, the circumstances, and I guess accepted whatever the reasoning is that the military gave her for why her husband was in this condition. She seems comfortable enough with it, and is quite, insulted that this woman would bring the FBI to her home.
And she makes the passing comment that the military have been very good to her. It just sort of leads you to believe that she's almost been, financially taken care of, or some way, shape or form.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly.
That comes across fairly well. And then from there we move on to Mulder and Scully, just a brief chat about trying to get to speak to somebody in the military or at this airbase to find out what's happening. And they actually go to a general's house to try and speak to him at that point.
Yeah, and he essentially gives them the finger, basically.
Pretty much, but that's where they're introduced to a reporter who was sent to them, so he says, by the wife of the missing pilot.
Yeah. So obviously this guy later turns out to be a military man, but at the time when he's first introduced, you don't really know how to take him. Is he a reporter? Is he a government agent? Who is he? He could be anyone. What's his agenda? And I like the guy who plays him, actually. I think he turns in a pretty decent performance for such a small character, a minor character. He's a bit of a weasel, but you also get the sense, certainly by the end of the episode, his final words to Mulder, you get the sense that he believes in what he's doing. He doesn't see himself as the bad guy. He actually sees himself as someone who's protecting government secrets that need to be protected. So I like how this guy's written. I like how he's portrayed.
It's that old adage, we're all the heroes of our own stories type of thing.
Yeah.
He could see himself as being the hero of his story. But when he first introduces or is introduced in this episode, I took him to be a reporter. I took it at face value, which is, I'm only an episode and a bit in, but I should have learned already that not everything is as it seems.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I saw this the first time around, I probably would have done the same. I probably did take it at face value. Like I said, I can only ever view these episodes now through the multiple viewings that I gave them during the 90s, I mean, I must have seen certainly these first season episodes at least 10 or 15 times each, if not more. Seriously, I got home from school and all I did was watch X-Files. That's all I'd do. I'd hit my bedroom and boom, X-Files would go on, and that was it.
So after that scene, it moves to a diner where Mulder and Scully are in there, and the lady's got UFO paraphernalia around the place.
We're back to the wackos, aren't we? It's like we always touch on a very particular type of person that is involved in the hunt for UFOs, and they all kind of, when you talk to them, they sound like they could be reasonable, but you could also be justified in thinking that these people are fruit short of a basket. I mean, this woman has a picture on her wall which is essentially just a blurry triangular shaped object that could really be anything, but she's adamant that it's a UFO, and that's the thing again, you know, what the show always does, it always gives you just enough information to keep you guessing, to keep you questioning, to think actually, is that real or is it not?
But again, it's like it shows you Mulder and Scully. Scully just plays the woman off as a cook.
Yeah.
You know, somebody that just is bought into all this UFO theory. And Mulder kind of speaks conspiracy, and buys her picture, and seems as if he's buying into what she's saying. But he's using her, you know, because they don't have the map to this base. Scully doesn't see this person as someone that's going to lead them to it, where Mulder notices that under the surface. And again, I didn't realise he was doing that until he walked out and said he had the map. I didn't see that coming whatsoever. Yeah, which is a great little touch, and he just kind of throws it back into Scully's face as well. You know,
I love Scully's reaction to it. She just looks like she just looks blown out. Basically, it's like she's had one pulled over on her. She takes it on the chin and just smiles and gets on her way.
And then we move to the airbase, where they decide they're going to stake the place out and watch what's going to happen. And Scully falls asleep and is woken up by the back window of the car smashing and various aircrafts flying over top, and Mulder's so excited, gets her out of the car, takes her to the top of the hill and shows her the light show that's going on of these aircrafts that are doing things that just aren't possible with modern day aircrafts. Yeah.
I remember seeing this scene for the first time actually when it was first aired, and I don't know, just there seemed to be something in the air at that time in the early 90s when I guess when people were just allowing themselves to be a bit more open-minded about things, and just the idea of these planes that there could be government, you know, new technology, or they could be UFOs or whatnot. That scene just always resonates with me as, I don't know, of the times, I guess. I don't know why, but it just does. I see that scene and I'm taken back to the 90s. I'm taken back to 1993. Bizarrely, I can watch a lot. You know, everything else in the episode I can watch and take it as it is. But for some reason, I watched that scene and I feel like I'm back in 1993. I think it's the special effects as well. Just they've dated pretty well, actually, as it happens.
Yeah, yeah, I think they used them quite smart. I mean, it's a pitch black sky that they're against, and it's just a light, so there's no really definition to it. That's it, but it does hold up, and it's a cool image as well. And the moves that are making are unlike anything that you would expect to see in the sky. And that's when they notice the helicopter coming towards them, and then kids being chased as well, and they chase the kids down, and it turns out to be Dr. Evil's son.
Yeah, Seth Green. Very early appearance from Seth Green before he ended up...
The man who will not age.
Yes, so this was before he ended up on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Some years before he ended up on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, actually. I gotta say, I'm not too enamoured with these two characters that pop up. Mm-hmm. They kind of feel a little bit forced, a little bit out of place. Yeah, just two dope heads, basically.
Pretty much.
And there's this scene in the diner when they're talking, and he's using his burger like a spaceship. And I think when I first saw this episode, I guess it's a sign of the times. I found humour in them. I thought they were quite endearing. But now, as my older self, and the passage of time has worn off a bit, and I just think they're a pair of morons, really.
Pretty much. And even in the diner scene, like you said, when they're explaining the spaceship to him, Mulder is kind of hanging on every word, and Scully's just like in the distance, just shaking her head as if to say, "Oh, come on, really?"
It's like, you will literally follow your theories anywhere, won't you? You will take the advice or the word of a couple of dopeheads. And you do kind of have to side with Scully on this one. I think of the two, she does come off as the one who is more sensible. And again, this is a thing with the passage of time, with getting older. Because as a teenager, I would always watch this show with the I guess the mindset that Mulder is the one that's right and Scully is the one that's wrong. Mulder was the character that I was sucked into. But as an older man, I watch this now and I think, actually, you know what, Mulder, you're getting a little ahead of yourself here, and Scully's actually the one who's talking sense in this scene. So yeah, I think it's funny how age can play a part in how you read these episodes.
And the next scene is Bob has appeared back home.
Yes.
The missing pilot has suddenly just turned up at the house, and they go over to the house to talk to him. And during this scene, Mulder continually questions the man about the most mundane of things. He just won't give up, no matter how many correct answers he's getting. He'll change topic, moves on to something else, and eventually moves on to a question that in his field of expertise should be able to answer fairly quickly. And they come to the revelation that the man just cannot remember anything about his career.
Scully, again, quite rationally, puts it down to his condition being one of stress, a stress-induced condition because of the job that he does as a test pilot, and that maybe he just quite simply wasn't able to handle the conditions of whatever the craft was he was flying. But Mulder is, he's with very little evidence really, he instantly prescribes this theory of this guy's memory having been wiped. What I particularly like about this scene, though, is the performance by the lady who plays this guy's wife. I think she does a really good job of showing a woman who is just about to crack under the strain of everything that's going on. Really, she's got her husband back, but it's not the man she knew. He's completely changed. And on the surface, he looks like the same man. You get a couple of agents who go in there and ask a few questions, look at a few photos, and yeah, on the surface, it's the same guy. But it's only when you're married to someone that you can know the subtle changes that would make you say, actually, you know what, this isn't the same person. I think the scene says a lot about marriage. But yeah, I like the performance by the actress who's playing the wife there.
I quite like the performance of Bob, the pilot that's returned as well. The frustration of being asked these questions, and you can actually see the surprise himself that he's unable to answer a question.
Yeah.
It's quite a hard thing to pull off, but he does excellent with it. And then from that scene we move on to Mulder and Scully travelling down the road when all of a sudden they're cut off and accosted by a group of unidentified individuals.
Men in black, if you will.
Absolutely, yes.
Several years before the film Men in Black. So yeah, it's quite amusing watching it now, just with the knowledge of the whole Men in Black kind of history. Just seeing all these guys who basically look like Agent Smith get out of the car and give Mulder a good going over, but.
Yeah, and it's even in that situation, you see them in the car, like Mulder cracks a joke about it. There's no worry on the guy, he takes this impending threat of intimidation as a sign that he's getting close to something. They never out and out say that, but with his comment, he passes, or I inferred that information from it, that he feels as if he's getting close to something. It's not terrifying as most people would find this situation.
He just doesn't care, does he? He's like, the more he riles people up, the more to him it means he's getting closer to that elusive truth that he's so desperate to catch hold of.
Yeah, we go back to the motel at that point. This is the one thing, it kind of jumps, because the guys say that they're going to follow them back to the motel and then get them packed and get them out of town pretty much, but when they get back to the motel, the men in black have vanished and they're left there themselves. And Scully explains to Mulder that, like it's beyond them what they're trying to do here. He's back, no harm's been done, the wife's happy that he's returned home, maybe it's time to just pack up and get out of town, which Mulder agrees to do. He's like, yeah, I'll just go and get my stuff, but instead he jumps in the car and drives away. And leaves her. Yeah. He's got no problem in lying to her in this sequence.
Yeah, again, as a sign of what their relationship is like at this early stage. He doesn't trust her enough to say, you know what, I'm going to push it that bit further, I'm going to go and check this base out. Instead, he feels like he's got to lie to her in order to go out on his own.
He doesn't even try to convince her.
No.
I think he knows that it's pointless, because he's a smart individual and just decides, you know what, I cannot leave this place without checking this out. She's not going to go with me, I'm just going to leave her here.
Yeah.
That desperation for an answer. And then that leads straight on to Mulder going to the airfield to see the light show, and to get as close to it as he can. Yeah,
so he basically breaks onto the military base, does a 10-mile walk to get to it, so we're told.
Which is good, because it changes from daylight to night time, where usually, by saying there's a 10-mile walk, you get a period of time.
Yeah.
Usually you get these crazy sequences in TV shows where they, at one moment they're at daylight and next time they're at night time. They don't explain the passage of time whatsoever. Yeah. But in that one comment, they do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see Mulder kind of... He comes out through the bushes, and then actually it's daytime at that point, and he's like, actually, I need to take a step back and just sit this out until nightfall, really, because I'm going to get seen. But then he goes onto the base, and we get really up close and personal with what really does look like a UFO, an alien spacecraft, with quite an iconic image, really, from early on in the show. We get this image of this craft hovering above Mulder, and this light beam kind of looking down on him. And it's a really good special effect. It holds up even now. Very kind of simple CGI effects, but because it's done in the night time, I think, and because they don't try to show too much, they keep things quite dark. It works. It's a very effective special effect. And I love the shot. I love the shot of that spaceship hovering above Mulder.
And of course, it's triangular as well, which leads credence to the pictures that he had earlier on in the episode. Yeah, they may be blurred, but it's a correlation between that picture and what he sees with his own eyes.
Yeah.
And that is before he is chased down and arrested by the military police of this airbase.
Yeah, who then wipe his memory, thereby kind of confirming Mulder's suspicions about as to what happened with Bob and the other guy.
Well, just after the airbase scene, it jumps back to Scully and the reporter who shows up again.
Yeah, and this is where he reveals himself to be, well, the villain, if you want to call him that. I'm sure he wouldn't see himself as a villain, but for our hero's sake, he's a villain. He's a guy who's going to scupper their plans and their investigation.
And Scully takes him down pretty much and gets him to drive her to the airbase, because she knows that's where Mulder is. Even though Mulder's abandoned her, she's not going to abandon him. She wants to get him back, get him safe and sound.
Yeah.
And like you said, you get that scene of Mulder having his mind wiped, which again, he's been given drugs, he's getting things done to him. It adds a whole duality to that scene. Is he actually seeing what he's seeing there? Is it the drugs making him paranoid to what he's seeing? Because you do get an image of a ship covered with a bit of material. is that in his head? Is he actually seeing that? Because at that moment we're seeing things through his eyes, and for all we know he could be drugged up.
Yeah.
Could be what he wants to see.
Yeah, I've always just read it as, that stuff is there, but he ain't going to remember it once the deed is done. Which kind of begs the question, why show us, the audience, if we're going to see it through Mulder's eyes. But
again, it goes back to your Men in Black wiping memories.
Yes. Again, before the film Men in Black even was on the horizon. I just got to say, the scene in which Mulder takes the reporter / government agent down, he kind of takes his gun and manages to get one over on him. It's kind of the start of what becomes quite a familiar pattern throughout the series, which is that Scully always tends to be the one who is able to handle herself in a fight, who's always seems to be able to kick some ass, whereas Mulder tends to have his ass handed to him on multiple occasions throughout the series.
Are you saying that Mulder's the damsel in distress?
Yes, absolutely. It does tend to be the case. I mean, it's not unheard of. It won't be the case that Scully is never the damsel in distress, because she is at times. But yeah, there is often that twist, that role reversal, in that Mulder is the one who needs saving and Scully is going to be the one to do it. And at this time as well, when the X-Files came out, just the very notion of making the man the one who is quite led by his emotions, led by his instinct, his intuition, so to speak, his women's intuition, and making the woman the one who is rational, the one who is a person of science. That in itself was quite a role reversal at this time, and we think nothing of it today, to have characters like that in TV shows, but for the X-Files to do it in the time that it did it was a first, really.
Mm-hmm. So after that scene, we've got Scully getting Mulder back, a dishevelled looking Mulder who doesn't look quite like himself. And you said earlier on that the reporter / government operative says something to Mulder, but I can't recall what that was.
Yeah, he basically says that the response that they've given to Mulder is appropriate to the level of secrecy, the secrecy that they need to keep. Essentially saying that by investigating this and by kind of pushing his way into this base, he has effectively endangered the country by possibly leaking secrets that could affect the defence of the country, I guess, is where he's going with it. So he's, like I say, he sees himself as the hero. He doesn't see himself as being someone who's done anything wrong in this situation. He's simply done his job and guarded the secrets that need to be kept secret.
And then we go into Scully's report. She's sitting typing up her report. And again, it's not confirming or denying anything really. It's just saying the facts, pretty much like she did in the first episode.
Yeah. It's basically her summation of the case, and this kind of links back to her assignment onto the X-Files, which is that she's there in her boss's minds to debunk it. So she has to file these reports. So every time we see her writing one of these reports, we have to consider where they're going. These reports are going to the men who assigned her to the X-Files. So what is she saying to them? What information does she give that could either harm or defend Mulder?
But it's a genius stroke as well, because, like you said, it's got that where's this information going, but it also lets you get her opinion out without her, because there's nobody else she can really talk to, because she's with Mulder in almost most of the scenes they're in. Yeah, and so it gets her opinion out to us by doing this report, so we get to know sort of what she's thinking inside her head. It's just a great way of doing it. And then it moves on to the sort of final scene in the episode where the mystery man appears, Deep Throat again, and gives his "I told you so" kind of speech.
Yeah, so at this point we don't really know what his game is. Is he here to help Mulder? Is he here to hinder Mulder? He could go either way. But he does say to Mulder, his final lines are that, Mr. Mulder, they have been here for a very long time, essentially confirming Mulder's suspicions that aliens do exist.
I've got a funny feeling it's going to be the consistent thing with X-Files. It just brings up more questions that you want to get the answers to. And like I've already said, I'm willing to jump through all the hoops to get these this time. Overall, what's your opinion of the episode, Brian?
I like it. I like it as much as I like the pilot. I do think from a script standpoint, structurally, the pilot is probably the stronger episode. But I like the way in which this episode opens up the universe of the X-Files. I like the way that it takes the conspiracy aspect to the echelons of the government. This is really where it's kind of fully introduced that the government are the ones who are keeping secrets from us, who are keeping the existence of extraterrestrials from us. Yeah, I like it, and I like the way it's shot. As I said earlier, I feel like this episode is a little bit more cinematic than the first one. I think it's better directed from a visual standpoint. The camera's always moving, it's always panning or zooming in, or it's just always following someone, and I like that. Or when the camera itself isn't moving, there's always movement in the frame, there's always something going on. Yeah, so it's a carefully considered episode, I think, from a directorial standpoint. And I just like it. It's a good, solid episode. Again, I like the first episode, I'd give it a 4 out of 5.
I have a split opinion about this episode, and I'm trying to think of a way to articulate what I'm thinking about it. And I think it's, whereas the first one's given the sort of plot driven of the mystery of the kids that are being murdered and that, you don't really have this in this one. There's been a missing pilot, but he's returned. He may not be the same person he was, but you could say that after any period of time, are we ever the same people that we used to be? You also get at the end of it Mulder having his memory wiped. We can only assume what amount of memory he's had, but mostly to do with this case. So this episode for him has been a kind of non-event. It hasn't moved that character forward any. It hasn't added anything to him, because everything up to that point that he's learned or grown or shown has been wiped clean. But I do feel that it's an important episode because, and it's a brave one to take in the second episode, because your main characters do not win. They do not solve a mystery. They don't come out victorious. They get a knock. They get chased. They get hunted out of town.
Yeah.
They don't get what they're after. And I think that's a brave decision to make in the second episode of a TV show like this. To have your characters lose effectively, because they are. Mulder gets his mind wiped. If anything, Mulder and Scully are driven a little bit more apart because Mulder abandons her and leaves her and things like that. They don't start off on the right foot. Mulder doesn't give her all the information. She has to find it herself. So it leaves their relationship a little bit worse for wear than where the episode started, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So it's a hard one for me. I see it as a necessity, and I do like certain aspects of it, but I definitely didn't like it as much as the first one. But I don't feel that it's an episode that should be cut or should be lost or shouldn't be viewed. I think in that case I'd probably give it a 2.5 out of 5.
Wow.
But that's not to say it may change on opinion, but I've just got a couple of things that just niggle at me in this one. Still excited to continue watching the series, still looking forward to watching episode 3, Squeeze, which I think is one that I definitely remember.
Classic X-Files episode, yeah. Not to give the game away too soon, but yeah, this is we're getting into classic X-Files territory with the next episode, so I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to hearing what you've got to say about it, actually.
I'm pretty sure this one is right in the memory banks. I know this one.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to getting to talk about that. I hope everybody enjoyed listening to our ramblings about episode 2. Deep Throat, we'll say it once more. Can we get a snigger, Brian? There we go.